I just feel relieved I didn't face plant the floor. Like it was a real concern that I was going to get out and the mayor was going to be there and I go, yeah, bang.
You could have styled it out though.
Well, no, so I had a plan. So if I did fall over, I was going to pretend to kiss the ground.
Okay, yeah.
So if I went smack, I'd go, oh, yeah. But I didn't have to use plan B. So it was
It's all good.
relieved. But then also, I mean, that swimming, you know, with the 300 swimmers.
That was incredible.
Amazing.
Quite a moment.
Oh, and I think you'll understand, obviously, with all that Dryrobe does with the open water swimming community, there's just not many sports where you can go, do you want to get up on a Sunday morning, 7 o'clock, in British winter, go and meet a guy that you've never met in the middle of the sea in Margate.
And have a swim.
Yeah, and everyone goes, yeah, and then filled all the places. And it was just, I got so choked up. It was, and even now, I keep my sentences sometimes quite brief when I think about it, just because I'll put my goggles on when I'm about to cry.
No worries. Cool. So big questions. How many bananas was the final tally? Have you done the final tally?
Good question. I was gutted because I was gonna have a final one to make it 650.
Okay, that'd be nice.
But the tide at the end was actually quite ropey. So Matt said, "You've got to swim." So I think it is 649.
Okay.
Which I'm really proud of.
That's a nice
the real
number.
record.
Yeah, definitely. And how many of those were caught? Or how many went into the face? Because we saw quite a few impressive catches.
Yeah, not many.
No.
I took a lot to the face. But it was also, like, Matt got really good. Like, when we were up, around Scotland, certainly, like, Moray Firth and stuff, if there was a really strong breeze, Matt could, like, curly boomerang it. And so he got really good at just, like, in any sort of... And even, actually, Taz was good, on the support crew, and Peony as well. She's got a good right arm.
Strong banana throwing arm.
Yeah, but I think Matt probably holds the record.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
For distance and kind of number.
For distance, accuracy, and number caught, Matt, I think. Taz was a bit overzealous. He'd just wind up and it would just go like over. And I was like, mate, that's in John and Groats.
Kind of added to the distance of the swim.
Exactly. I've done ages ago.
So out of the whole trip, there's got to be, you've been asked so many different questions about best moment, all of this sort of stuff. What's the funniest moment you can think of?
I've not been asked that one yet.
No.
Funniest. Probably the seal that was attacking my pink boy and playing hide and seek. Because every time I turn around, I thought like Matt or someone was like pulling on the boy, and I'd turn around and then the seal would hide. Oh no, actually, looking back with retrospect, probably one of the funniest moments. It wasn't at the time, but it was, again, West Scotland, swimming. We needed to get around the top of Cape Ross, so we were on a real tight deadline. Swimming around, and I remember I got stung, jellyfish, pretty bad. And I remember just thinking, I can't stop, or that it's hurting. But it was a different sort of sting. It was like searing into my skin, and it wouldn't stop hurting. But I was like, I need to get around Cape Ross. I'm swimming real hard. And then after about half an hour, I was like, no, this is really bad. Like, I don't know what's going on. So I popped my head up. I said, Matt, like, I'm sorry, I've got to stop. Like, I've been stung and it's just killing me. And he just looked at me and he just said, yes, because it's still wrapped around your face. And the tentacle, this like fat tentacle, had like looped around my goggles. So like it was just like that, like slapping me in the face. And, so I took my goggles off and I unpeeled it and unthreaded it. And then my face basically swelled, so my eyes, so my goggles wouldn't fit anymore. It's not very funny now I'm talking about it.
It sounds brutal, most brutal moment of the Great British Swim.
Looking back, that moment with like, it hurts, and he's like, yeah, because it's still on your face. And it was like, it was probably pretty bad.
Just hanging on.
Yeah.
Nice. So big part of your swimming, obviously, you're doing these 6-hour stints, you've got your 6 hours in between. You got to recover in that time. How important was your Dryrobe for that recovery time?
Cold management was absolutely key, and that's what we called it, because it wasn't just kind of like, you had to take it very seriously, because if you didn't, even what we found is like when you were really, really cold, you were shivering, so your muscles were just going into spasm, which is like sometimes you'd even get a headache because you were that cold. So cold management was an absolute key point, and people don't really understand that. And it can be anything from between triathlons, between open water swimming races, Neptune steps, where we caught up this year.
Yeah.
That was key, and you could see. I mean, it was 2 degrees, wasn't it?
So, yeah.
I mean, there was smoke.
Cold.
Exactly, and what was really interesting is when you said who's going to win Neptune steps. I was sort of looking at it, I was like, well, obviously you've got to be a good swimmer, you've got to be skilled enough to climb up, you've got to be good at cold water management. And everyone was like, what do you mean by that? And between heats, you saw the real professionals who knew what they were doing, and they would get out their wetsuit, they'd get a dry robe on, and they'd be ready for the next heat. And you saw some of the other, less experienced guys, they'd sort of stay in, and they'd wonder why they were cramping by the second heat. And so that's why it was key. And I was essentially doing that, what I learned at Neptune Steps, for 157 days. So that's why, everyone said when they saw my driver, they were like, "Are you living in that?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's just
pretty much."
Especially around Scotland, I didn't take the thing off. So it was just immediately get out, drive it. It became such an essential tool, because without it, you're starting the next swim cold. You can't start the next tide already cold. Cold management.
Fantastic. Good. Final question. Biggest lesson you've learned from the Great British Swim?
Biggest lesson is probably that you are so much more powerful than often your mind allows you to believe. And I said that in one of the vlogs, and people will say, "What do you mean by that?" And it's just like, look, because of these innate self-preservation mechanisms that we all have, it doesn't matter what your sport, you can go on. I mean, I was lucky enough to catch up with Cal, who paddleboarded from Land's End to John O'Groats, and when we were going through the Inner Hebrides, I was speaking to her because and this is what was amazing, because two very different sports, but the same fundamental principles. Yeah. So I was saying, like, what would you do, like, when you were, getting smashed by waves and stuff? And Cal just had exactly the same outlook as me, in that she was like, well, the ocean doesn't care, so your legs are just full of lactic acid, your shoulders are burning. Tide's still going to run, it's just, and you can miss the tide. No one's forcing you to do it, but you're just never going to get to John O'Groats. And so that was what was really nice, is sharing those experiences with people who have done it from very different sports, because ultimately the principles are still the same. And like I said, central governor theory, Tim Noakes, said that this fatigue is an emotionally driven state that we create to get us to pull that physiological handbrake. And if you can basically override that and say, no, I know you're fatigued, but you're okay, you're not in any immediate danger, that's the conversation that you're having, this mind-body connection, then you can continue. So that's been the biggest thing, and I think one of the best lessons, that it doesn't matter what your sport, people will go, I run a marathon. Central governor theory. I'm more powerful than my mind allows me to believe. Rowing, paddleboarding. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. That's been the nicest thing.
Fantastic. Amazing. Great to catch up with you. Congratulations, mate. So proud. So stoked for you.
Thank you.
Good stuff.